Welcome back to the John Fourcade Show. Proud sponsor of the fairgrounds right here at Veterans Ford. Always first out the gate. Again, Veterans Ford, a proud sponsor of the fairgrounds, always first out the gate. And this coming weekend, the big race. You all know what's involved here. They got some major horses involved, and the winner of the Risen Star Stakes gets that ticket punched. You know where you play, Kentucky Derby. We're back here on the John Fourcade Show, sponsored each week by Veterans Ford. John, we'll take a look each and every week. We're trying to break down the different segments of the draft. We're going to take a look at the top defensive backs for the 2016 NFL Draft. Right off the bat, Jalen Ramsey, who's my number 2 rated player in this draft class, right behind Laramie Tunsil. Guy's a big corner who could also play free safety. Vernon Hargreaves, we've seen him 3 years and his accomplishments at Florida. I think a young man who's not getting a lot of ink, but will. One of the sharper players in this draft class, Mackenzie Alexander from University of Clemson. The 4th spot, Eli Apple, the cover cornerback from Ohio State. Kendall Fuller, his brother's already in the NFL. He's coming off of a knee injury. I think he's somebody that if he's healthy, he won't last out of the first round. And I think the sleeper in this class, Artie Burns from Miami of Florida, highly recruited football player, a lot of issues off the field family-wise, a great kid. This was going to come back and play with the Hurricanes, but you know, his mother passed away. He's having to take care of his brothers and sisters in this part. So that's a pretty strong class. I think all 6 of those guys will be gone within the top 40 picks. A lot of people say, well, the Saints won't use a pick on a cornerback. Well, all I know is with the health issues, not knowing about Keenan Lewis, and also the concussion issues with Damian Swann, it wouldn't shock me that this football team go with their first-round pick on a cornerback.
Well, the thing is, if we talk to the Saints right now, if they do go with somebody other than a pass rusher, it's got to be a defensive back, because you were right. They have no clue what their secondary is going to be. You just can't go and take that first-round pick and waste it on an offensive side of football. You need help defensively. Right. And if it isn't a D rusher, if you can get a good pass rusher by free agency, maybe you go in the draft and get a cornerback. But it's cornerback, D rusher, cornerback. You got to go with that right now, because there's some good cornerbacks and safeties in this league. And the way the Saints are right now in their secondary, they're struggling right now with some of the guys back there.
You know, one of the things, too, is we talk so much about Delvin Breaux. You know, Delvin was a guy, no college experience, played 2 years in the Canadian Football League, but how impressive he was as a first-year guy in the NFL. Fuller's brother, I thought he did a terrific job coming into the National Football League. We've seen corners make an instant impact at that position as a rookie. I think that's a spot today because of the training you get at the college level that you can come in and play. We just think about Patrick Peterson, how quick an adjustment he made. Tyrann Mathieu, how quick an adjustment he made. I do think that that's a position where you can pick a guy early and he makes an impact, especially a cover guy.
And also, Mike, look where these guys are coming from. It's not smaller school cornerbacks. It's some big school cornerbacks, leagues where they play against multiple quarterbacks who throw the football with against wide receivers that usually get drafted as well. And that's the key to look at, man. Who are they covering? Who are these guys playing against? If you're playing in the SEC, you're playing at Florida State, you're playing at Ohio State, Michigan, those are kind of cornerback. Virginia Tech's pretty known about their pass defense team. So it's against teams that got good defenses with good cornerbacks or cover guys, and that's the ones who get picked early enough in the league. And especially nowadays, Mike, they're getting some big cornerbacks, 6 foot, 195, because wow, you got 6'4", 6'5" receivers who can go up and catch the football. Very seldom you're gonna see 5'9", 5'8" DBs playing.
You know, that was the argument a lot of people were making, you know, early on before the bowl season, and I picked Ole Miss over Oklahoma State. Well, Oklahoma State's faced those type teams before. They faced those type teams, but never those type players.
Right.
And man, they just absolutely ripped apart Oklahoma State's secondary throwing the football with Kelly. One of the players that I think, especially from LSU's standpoint, that will make a big jump up the draft boards just because he's a multi-position player. He can play free safety or cornerback, and that's Jalen Mills, and he's on our second list. John, I think he's a guy that if any LSU player makes a run to possibly be a first-round pick, I think it's Mills because he can play free safety, can play cornerback. His versatility would certainly be a huge plus there. Also, William Jackson, a good cover cornerback from Houston. Darian Thompson, who's the free safety from Boise State. And Von Bell from Ohio State, man, you look at these lists of Ohio State, they may have a dozen players get picked in that draft. And my thing is, where were they, in the Final Four? Why didn't they? In one game, they really messed up, and that was it. But, man, you could have Ohio State with a totally different look offensively and defensively in 2016 because of what they losing early to the draft.
Well, you got to also look at Ohio State, the coach they brought in. Urban Meyer knows what he needs back there. You need to have cover guys you can cover because teams are starting to throw the ball a lot more. We all understand that. It's coming to passing football league, both college and pro football. And if you get DBs who can cover, safeties who can play, that's a plus for you. And Ohio State is one of the top schools, you know as well as I do. Right. Always will be and always going to have the players. And so they go out and can get cornerbacks and high school kids, and that's what they look for, guys who have the ability to play both safety, cornerback. But when you talk about Mills, you have to give your hat off to this guy. If he goes in the first round, it won't be unexpected. I think he's got an opportunity to do that.
I think he's got a shot.
He's got a shot to do that. Somebody will say, look, the guy's played in the SEC, he's been around, well coached, got a good defense, DBU. Yep. Look at all the other past former LSU players who've done it, went through there and played. So you just don't know what the way they're going to pick. And it all depends on who gets taken before that. You know as well as I do, some guys go off the board you don't expect it to. Now all of a sudden opens up a chance for you who you want to take. So a lot of wheeling and dealing can happen in an NFL draft. So these players, but Mills is a guy that I would be happy picking.
John Snyder brought it up to me years ago in Mobile was that, I don't really care what somebody else has on a rating. I'm worried about picking for my team. And so, a lot of times when you see a guy get picked in the latter part of the first round, I say, well, I didn't have him rated that high. They picking him because they feel as though he's a fit for what they do. And most of those teams that pick late, they're the better teams in the league. And so they're looking for almost a specific spot for that. One guy not on that list, I'm interested to watch and what happens with Rashard Robinson, a former LSU guy who, had a lot of problems off the field. But when he was on LSU's team, he was looked at as a better cover guy than Jalen Mills. And that to me, and even Tre'Davious White. So I'm interested to see what happens with Robinson in the individual workouts and also one-on-one because man, when you get kicked out at LSU for off the field issues, you've done more than one thing wrong. We saw Jalen Collins a year ago admitted twice that he failed drug tests, was still on the team. So Robinson's efforts to get kicked off this team must have been pretty high.
Well, I mean, the thing now is you get in front of these NFL scouts, NFL personnel people, it's how you going to address that. How they sit down with you and they talk to you and they'll understand you. He's not going to be a first round pick, but he could be a kid that can sneak into lower rounds. Somebody will take a pick on him, and if he can play, they want guys who can play.
Yeah, if he goes to Arizona, that would be just about right because that seems to be LSU West in the NFL. More with the John Fourcade Show, sponsored each week by Veterans Ford. We'll be right back.